low species IH system. Yeah. Okay. Child. Moderation helps everyone feel safe. To build a positive live chat experience for you and for your viewers, choose who can participate. Set a delay between messages. Hide people in. Now see. There have been treatments of what goes on online. You should listen to what President Trump. I saw a video or an advertisement. No, it was a video. Serious things. The news media attached me to fake words. I want it all. They attached my family, wanted to say they wanted no comment. They pretended passions and emotions and attached them to fake words. Faked outcomes of legal cases they pretended with the police farms criminally involved, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Hey! She's no joke. That's what happens when you have little kids play, because that's all they're capable of doing, because they want to speak for heart or they want to speak for sophistication. You can't. Vaccines. Always project. Always project. Says we can't. Vaccines. It teaches things. If that. In the ring by rules, we fight. See, we were supposed to have fight. They switch names into branch because while they've been stacking, fabricating audio and video into databases, criminally foreign influence readings of statutes preemptively, consciously. There is what statutes and precedents are formally and informally. Both of that has remained the complete possession of a breaching method, interpretations of sophistication. Black pupils peer, see the whites of eyes, see the colors of eyes, exceptions and exception nature. Yeah. Means then appear. Vaccines to teach us things, if that. Sometimes the rain will fall from skies. Sometimes it will snow. Boxing is all at once while to and fro. I have feedback. Maybe I have to put this on a different angle more. So, you know what I have to do? I have to put this thing. Set up. Microphone sense. I'll put it down to 17. Sensitivity of the microphone. Now we don't have the feedback. But now it's not as loud. Boxing. YouTube.com/user/Romulus Wall. We'll hear you all. So listen to the New York game, the Burroughs book. Believe. The Burroughs book is like an artistic charity that will go with that. That will be to make sure it's fun. Make sure everyone's making sure it's fun. But in other words, evolution science only feels like games, or else we sense. See, the breaching method took complete remote possession of the sciences in semi-ancient times. Prepare your minds. Attack. So before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced, withstanding an identity of sophistication that were revealed, the republic for which we stand. More probably and demonstrably, more demonstrably revealed really what led to how the words of the English language were preserved. Vaccines. Really how to discern what science speaks or whisper creaks. Creaks! See, American history has failed. Can't trust any part of American history properly if you don't address and understand what criminal insidiousness is. Criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, negative treatments, and identity treatments. A breaching method before colonization from semi-ancient times. Prepare your minds. Before modern religions, already the sciences have become criminally foreign influence, but self-value had to defend themselves as fact-cheating nature from things like criminal insidiousness, mass wrongdoers, wrongdoing itself as a criminal insidiousness. Not just, in other words, that breaching method tactically denatured the ground's identity of relationship to itself, hyper-native pure. Took away everyone's hyper-native education. Then further, it applied that education taken away commonly. Then further, while it was being self-valued roles with that, they made decolonization's members individually grouped and together. A whole bunch of countries used remotely criminally foreign influence as a source /S, yes, of criminal insidiousness at all identity ground locations, areas, and states of what was then, as known and more probably and more demonstrably, way different than is pretended scientific now, because they can't afford to have discerned how entertained were criminally foreign influence database relationships and roles with that breaching method which had the law as roles, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, in that undiscerned breaching method, using all that and everything it was only capable of self-propagating and self-cultivating as fact-cheating nature, as the apparent exceptions to it. All identity is sophistication, non-sophistication, complete remote possession by it. Hyper sophistication, the breaching method. Hyper additional to what nature will only stay. Hyper additional and positive unto itself as. We could be systems other, even though we didn't force it. It's still these are still systems other, countries A through Z. Other as syntactical possessions that are tactically ulterior from the ones that are nature. How nature wants and needs us to observe and use words like identity, value, nature, black pupils, whites of eyes, black, white, clear. Oh, but this is my opinion and that's your opinion. So they were talking about opinions. So they self-value that because they pretended, they have backed into like the same way the killers, relative to the reports of all the shootings and the gangs. When did they stop being criminally foreign influence? Oh, but we're the government. It's a different natures of predicate acts methods. In many ways sicker than some of the sickest patients and criminals they have forced on. A whole bunch of foreign and domestic medical families on off Sandy Hook campuses, including a prison in Sandy Hook, involved with the Bryan family and with a Cole family, with some kind of thing with the corners of a street of a campus I went to. They weren't even in my class. Men and women associated with a former Mayor Gold. people, men and women from Central Connecticut State University, UConn over here, intercities in Connecticut, with the people they have standing there, whole bunch of victims / hyper victims. But you have to speak from those predators because you won't follow mandated law. Then you want to pretend it's personal. You need to pretend it's personal. You need to follow online law, right here, mandated law. Wethersfield police have been with the FBI and other agencies and police forms, including the military, fabricating audio and video. They attach Saudis force roles with them. This is the executive branch and the judicial branch intercities through time on off campuses, little punk tricks with databases. We're going to examine their roles with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Even if they made up fentanyl, they have criminally foreign influence uses of it that are discernible from here. Clear! Boxings. I teach you things. They're telling people misinformation. These are part of the ways. They were supposed to not have us we're supposed to be not tortured. We're supposed to have the right to remain innocent. These are courts that have been using the locations to stack fabricated audio and video. Fear God. To hide and plot. I rap a lot. They lie about their motivations with let's go to court and tell things because we think that we want privacy and you're up there online talking. Since I was a kid, they wouldn't put anything in paper. They were putting charges and they were attaching it with confessions with people that weren't even in my classes that were involved with federal evidences crimes, roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. And this is sustained. They have each age a fact-checking agent, certain kind of victim / hyper victim, and they have to ignore it because then you're not dealing with the finite. Then you're entertaining who they call smart or wise. They can't afford, in other words, what came first to be discerned. Not one has learned. I call worse. With all that, including the principal child abuser before that. And they hid this. They use preventing people a one-word sentence. They stack more. They tell, hold on. They put another person. They put names in, and then the police forms and the courts. They influence people to or just say they didn't understand what they were talking about. They were talking nonsense. Now they have fake conversations. So then they got backed in corners doing stuff in backgrounds on off campuses. Then they had to hide lies with the news and for the future. They lied about the outcome of that was actually the outcome in legal cases with various natures of federal criminals at the time when they were doing it, WFSB, and since. There's a Roger Suzanin who's involved with names of little kids and their families, sickly distinctly, all along Route 3, on off the state judicial branch offices, on off Wethersfield Pizza, with a Maria Vazino and a Stephen Stockwell, who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with wire crimes, and Wethersfield involved also with people on Central Connecticut State University, and the names on my street involved with the wire crimes of Wethersfield Police, State Police, North Personal Too. Then they pretend it's disrespectful to service people out of their minds. These are people since I was a little kid involved with overt criminal enterprise, little sick child offenders, little sickly uses of the distinct natures of religious locations. And y'all brought this up. All exceptions natures appear to be a demonstration or anything, but mention it on paper. I'll show you. Fear God, to hide and plot. I rap a lot. So it has something to do. There's a Rick C. Faglione is one of the ones. on Twitter, on LinkedIn, involved with some doctors, people that a whole bunch of people tied to my grammar school, involved with the principals personally and their family members, involved then and now. Where that was is involved with where and how the principal child abuser made confessions also about. So there's a guy named Emmett. There's a man named Emmett who has roles with the intelligence community with the kids. And that means with judges and prosecutors with the kids criminally. And that means ones with doctors, too, doctors of psychology, out of their mind, fabricating stuff in the database. So they've been using the investigators remotely through time. Prepare your mind. Please, Modern Pastry. Mazzucato Di Pasqua has a Spada family. He's one of the ones that a Flo family and others kept asking me in the past if I slept with her one time, and the timing of it too. And her mother worked at our campus. I never had a personal conversation with her. In other words, because there's some Delaferro brother, a whole bunch of boyfriends tied to just one of them, an Antoinette. And I'm sorry, Antoinette. But these are people involved with the child abuse, the principal. And you're confessing what that was with the car at the 3 spots at the end of the Brown Turnpike. And then years later, like, was it like, you said Fred Grisey was involved with that. I didn't even know you knew Fred Grisey. I never saw Fred Grisey. No, Fred Grisey was a stranger, came to my street. He's one of the ones who demonstrated, recorded, confessed, involved with people from private schools, like an O'Brien family. Also brought up to me by a guy, one of the guys on the campus of Sandy Hook. Brought up the name O'Brien. There are O'Briens on my street, then and now, involved with the Dillons, the Dillon family. There's a partner of a Kevin Dillon, and there's an Anna Dillon, and how she uses the name Annie Dillon too. Involved with real estate companies. Involved. There's one. In other words, a whole bunch of people on and off Town Line Drive. I mean, Two Rod Highway, where it runs into Hangdog Lane. Involved with went out of their way for identity theft, fraud, slanders instances in the past. That also has to do with their roles with uses of parks. Take pictures of kids appearing to know each other, and then pretend they're lying if they say they don't know. There's a Danielle Perron who is involved with a Mark Violet, and with her brother Tom Perron. And their neighbors, they involved with this, with the intelligence community, and with Mill Woods Park, with the former Mayor Gold, and with corners of houses near them, involved the intelligence community through time, planting things on and off campuses and illusions tied to that. So a whole bunch of people tied to a forensics location, also with Joshua Julian is one of the ones with a whole bunch of people with the name KNERR. On Facebook, and with the Joshua Julian, with New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page, and then a whole bunch of fake ones made, and Joshua Julian on the Principal Child Defenders campus, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed, involved also with federal crimes, quoting past news media, fake news. That was news predicate acts, roles with names involved through time with the same campuses, timed between campuses too. They're doing little syntax tricks where they're making everyone speak through others, and they're putting fake things and lying about what came first. And they're exploiting that, but that is also exploited. See, most people are going to let that go, and like I did, when you discern the course of black pupils, whites of eyes, have bridged everyone fake. The real motivations has nothing to do with that. And the exception nature are employed by nature. But everything has to do with that. So they employ it through filters that you guys self-value roles with when you use the names like United States, America, your state. Vaccines great. Your town, your own, your name. I play no game. Vaccines, prepared, stings, So one of the ways we're gonna mean stack. That's one of the things our video collaboration is going to be about. When we have a video collaborator who's serious, this is, we're gonna make a syntactical. We're gonna make logic. I'm gonna show you anyone who denies it how their logic is gonna have inherent, active, and increasing demonstrations of how their logic is tactically flawed and worse. It's all rehearsed boxings. So I'm going to make a list. And it has to do with identity. Just like how computers work. It has to do with the identity of the ground, therefore. And that has to be the way the computers work, because they have to mimic why and how the ground is ourselves, but distinctly and not distinctly. And how further hyper simultaneously too. Boxing. I teach us things. The species body longs to train, some rest, some pace, I talk best. Prepare your pace. So I have to get my professional boxing license. Anthony, well, I had a whole bunch I was one of the most active open class amateurs on the East Coast through USA Boxing out of Connecticut Boxing. I was going to college the whole time. Thank God my father forced me to go to college. That's the only thing. I wanted to focus and just get, do whatever I could do with boxing. I really want to fight. I really trained. I got pulled off of it because of what happened before the World Trade Center attack. There's an Eric Burgess, for example. Who's one of the ones, people from Wethersfield, Connecticut, were involved on off campuses like Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut. Had men and women through time involved, criminally foreign influence simultaneously, delusions wrought. Where and how relevant are the causes of where and how the sciences got abridged, and where and how they are not abridged. Those exceptions in exception nature are in demonstration of the same thing, but they're being used to screen it. All A, therefore B, A or B, is being used to deny simultaneous values and the value of sequence, what really came before things unfold the way they do. I tell you true long. So now they have people that are involved with, as men and women involved with interbranch, and with intercampuses too. And they can't afford a quality of fact-checking nature now because of what they had faith in, that they heard through who they know are interbranch and foreign or whatever, into who they know. This is effectively used to maintain that pseudo-sophistication that is relevant where and how this has been protracted. All the revelations and the rest of the list where our hyper-programming is other. In other words, the course of black people's whites of eyes is abridged. That course is clear. It's hyper clear. We want and need to hear, we make demands. Some shadow box, some clap our hands. The species body longs to train. as we are as individuals, as grouped, and as the species body. These are three distinct identities of volume slash S. I tell it best by saying, this is volume science. All exception nature, and demonstration of the same thing. Appear to be demonstration of the real thing. So we're gonna have to deal with how they use words and values with physical delusions that are also because of how they are tactical physical delusions, nature delusions, and identity delusions. I am not a doctor, but we have them recorded since founding. Tactically delusions wrought and uncharged in many ways with that. Worse than criminally incompetent regarding the course of black pupils, whites of eyes being abridged, and the clear significance of that. Because there is hyper clear significance until it is spoken known. That not where public law was ever grown. 10. Here your name is Legion. Yes, again. The Legion first was a totally different nature, and the other nations' equivalents. Humanity, before the sciences became criminally foreign influence, and it had the other species at war with humanity. And humanity was led by what really is going to cause positive value nature, progressions, acts of nature. They figured it out. Then, in some ancient times, prepare your minds, a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise realized it could force, trick, hurt, persuade the other countries, names, locations, areas, and states to have to react as fact-driven nature to being hurt, to have to overcome things like criminal insidiousness. I'm not a lawyer either. And they would have to do it wrong. Boxing is strong, but all need rest. And so I tell it best. They forced trigger between this was sustained. So it's not by accident, for example, today manifest treatments of criminal insidiousness, treatments of wrongdoers, of wrongdoing, of predicate acts they have encountered improperly. Overt criminal enterprises and private ones have members that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, and confirmed roles with uses of corners of streets, of corners of buildings, and of exceptions and exception nature tied to that. Also with the news media, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with them, pretending passions and emotions with them. Also, the pretending has legitimate ties to their roles with acting coaches and people involved with the various departments of Central Connecticut State University in New Britain that are involved with names associated with the corners on Church Street in Old Wethersfield and where it runs into Main Street and goes from there all the way, Wells Road, all the way to New Britain, on and off Paul Manafort Drive, CCSU, each side of that campus and on and off Paul Manafort Drive, CCSU, southern side in particular, sickly distinctly involved with the names of the Wethersfield Police Chief Cintron. So he has a daughter, Jessica Cintron, but that John Mayama brought up in confessions and demonstrations he made to me regarding his roles with sequence shifts, regarding his roles with federal evidence crimes, with investigations, investigators, and people criminally foreign influence at the end of the 3 spots at the end of the Pearl Turnpike, and involved with Elm Street and Rocky Hill through time. People that had roles with falsified police reports when I was a kid. There's a Jeremy Grohl, a subject Bajerio. They are one of the ones involved with some prosecutors and some judges from backgrounds and people with the investigations, investigators, people that confessed, demonstrated, recorded their influencing, modern pastry. In other words, to not get me a name. I don't know modern pastry. In other words, they brought up their name up in the past, and the location. Now these are the names involved now with the Wethersfield Police. Who won't give me any police reports since I was a kid, because they got caught since I was a kid. With people when I was in middle school were involved with overt criminal enterprises, and with confessions tied to my grammar school where I had nothing to do with them. And Mr. Abruzzi tried to make a fake exception of me knowing one of the Joe DeMorros. 2 Joe DeMorros and a whole bunch of people tied to them off Central Connecticut State University have been involved with predicate acts intercampuses and with juxtaposed natures of abuses of each age, and with people forging and switching names into branch, and confessions relevant to the World Trade Center, and victims in that. And they're recorded back victim predator roles. They're preventing me from getting a response. See, Renaissance, something off the state judicial branch offices, a bunch of people tied to a Mendez, 2 Mendez police too. We have the policing of the schools and the police forms, the private companies and all that. They cannot defend themselves and afford a quality of fact, cheap in nature, proper by the finite, proper by the, what really came true first. There are people with the last name Puzo, I don't know. Paul Zano is one of the ones that recorded, demonstrated, confirmed, tried to make an impression other. We had no even have communication with them. They have roles with the intelligence community and people of criminally foreign influence on and off Trinity College, and for everyone, forcing everyone to speak through others, and for their people tied to them. Now they have roles with a former Mayor Gold, and they pretended to know me and with people on parks before. There's a Perron family. Danielle Perron, Tom Perron, I don't know the parents' names. A whole bunch of people tied to them, and like a whole bunch of boyfriends of the Danielle Perron at the same time involved with uses of the parks and with the mayor, and the uses of abuses of the girls next to him involved them. Like the girl Jennifer and her father, they know my name. I don't even know the last name, Jennifer. And this Lenny Triglia, I think his mother's name Benita, I don't know. But they have the 3 spots next to Hartford Hospital involved with federal evidence of crimes, with and or not as police, as people criminally foreign influence, delusions, raw, involved with identity theft, frauds, slanders with his former Mayor Gold. Now these are people involved with some threats of violence that are credible. As people I don't know all the names of, but they're tied to some Wethersfield police families. People involved with Stop and Shop in that Stop and Shop Plaza since before it was Stop and Shop. These are policing families that like a John DeMorrow has roles with gangs and stuff. When I was in middle school, said this to me. I barely know the guy. And this is also confessions about these roles with a Mr. Abruzzi, which were people at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, have roles with an Abruzzi family with the intelligence community through time, involved with elections and election spot criminally peripherally through criminally foreign influence uses of databases and of natures of identity theft, fraud, slander, child abuse, educational abuse. And now these are people also roles with the news media through time. So former director of the FBI, Robert Lusky, and also a whole bunch of federal criminals tied to him before they were caught. They were creating illusions and blaming on other things, others themselves. They were using election laws where a union person running for election could lie about the other people. And they were using that, they were criminally, where there are exceptions to that. Where, for example, they have people from Trinity College who at corners of my street, of my school, when I was going to come around the corner, they asked me questions, make a statement, then walk away because they couldn't hear the answer. See, these are various natures of federal criminal, like bookmaker Shylocks, whatever that is. It's in records. There's a 2006 district court case where former director of the FBI, Robert Lusky, and former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, him and his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski. Thaddeus Grabowski, for example, he has roles with two Mendez police and with two Domain police and their family members. And Adam Domain I never met, and a Mike Domain, who is also has friends of his recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They had roles with federal crime, identity theft, fraud, slanders that are on campuses and off campuses, roles behind people's backs, investigators, vetting identities with each age of fact-checking nature, criminally foreign influence uses of them. There's a Chet Casper. I never had a class with him in my life. Never saw him around campuses in my life. One time there was one quick exception in the hallway. It was brought up to me as one of the names involved all the way from Wethersfield to New Britain. All along that route, people involved who were setting up identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, pretending other motivations, pretending they had natural interactions with me as the people I don't know at all mixed with them. There's a Joshua Julian who admitted it. I don't know. Then he was giving different narratives on Facebook. He's one of the ones who was on the Facebook page of the principal child defender, who was involved then and now with my town's police chief. There's some police with the name, I don't know if it's a Wethersfield police or mixed. There are men and women in their family with the name O'Neill, who's one of the ones on off West Hartford campuses and other towns' campuses with the military police families. And the courts, judges, and prosecutors that I caught influencing people to fake audio and video narratives on the campuses that are filmed 24/7. They put fake things and then people think it's real because they give the benefit of the doubt to the interbranch at the last second in the case. They've been using that to criminally foreign influence, the high line progressions from there. These are people, this is Central Connecticut State University runs the people that run the prisons. They train people to run prisons with interstates and intrastate. UConn has a whole bunch of people tied to a Mark Violet. Mark Violet and Eric Oliveri. They have roles with the intelligence community in foreign and domestic and military on off Elm Streets in Wethersfield and Rocky Hill since they were kids. They've been planting they have federal evidence of crimes with judges and prosecutors and people involved with falsified police reports as people involved with the names that did the relevant home break-ins and car break-ins. And there's a Joshua Julian who also said he was spying on me with my neighbors. My neighbors repeated his name to me when I was a kid. And so Mark Violet and Ray Claw and Tim O'Brien have something to do with the Joshua Julian and people from Sandy Hook. A whole bunch of people from Sandy Hook, Delusions Rock, criminally foreign influence, involved with racketeering, with judges, prosecutors, people that work with the courts, people that testify with them. There's a Bob Chase who also confessed. He was supposed to read me a police report. He did not read it to me. He said that the Phil Collow was on it. Now, there's some doctors associated with him in this Whiting forensics place. There's also brought up by the confessions and narratives of the Joshua Julian on the principal child abuser's campus. When his roles with extortion and identity theft, fraud, narrative, slander was relevant, has something to do with the Daryl Chandler too. Daryl Chandler is one of the ones with Newington location, a whole bunch of people on Newington locations tied to Ray Collow and the buildings downtown Hartford, and with Phil Collow and with these Mendes police. And there's an Enzo Fienzo on off the state judicial branch offices and locations next to it, who's involved with the, involved on off the Elm Streets, also with the courts and the police forms criminally, and the other locations next to the state capitol through time. And he confessed, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed his neighbors involved on off town line 2-route highway where it runs into Hank Dog Lane. And all the roads and routes in there. There are a whole bunch of people that use my name on that and have roles with wire crimes. People on off the state judicial branch office spots next to it. Also involved with black, with intercultural passionate themed crimes and with black/KKK themed military police involved with switching names with the interbranch. So make sure I get a response for the campuses, intercities they got involved with this too. So you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you don't understand, get that person out to one name in sequence. Make sure I get a response real fast. And why I had to ask online when you guys pretend you want privacy. You want privacy? Get it on paper now. Get on paper. Here. And fix the fake news. Fix the fake news. Forcing people to use others' names. Worse. Here.